So, happy Kwanzaa. Happy day after Christmas. Today is December 26, 2020. Um, and I was reminded by Facebook, well, I knew that today was my grandmother's anniversary of her death, her passing. And I kind of wanted to talk about it today. It's crazy how it's the day after Christmas. And she loved the holidays. Like, that's one thing about my grandma. Like, she loved every holiday. She dressed up for Halloween. Every year our house was decorated for Christmas, for Halloween, for Thanksgiving. She had plates with leaves on them, she was just that lady. So today I just wanted to honor her in a few ways. Her favorite color was blue, which is funny because I used to get on her like, why do you like blue? Blue is like a boy color. Like, my favorite color has always been yellow. And now I find the beauty in all colors. Like, I think there's, I like a lot of colors now. But anyway, so to honor her and her love for blue, this was not by chance. This is just really cute. It was outside, so we got the blue there. I don't have many blue outfits or blue things, but I found these blue bracelets that I used to sell here, and I wore them. And I bought some blue socks, minus that leaf, but I have some blue socks. And then I'll get into the poinsettias, if that's what they're called. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about forgiveness, because I can't think of the word forgiveness without thinking of my grandmother. So when I was younger, 10 years old, my mother passed away, and we went to go live with my grandparents, her parents, and I was there all the time, so it kind of felt like I already lived there. So that transition was very smooth and very natural for me, and most likely for my sister too. But me and my grandmother, when we were younger, we were always, I would always be around her, up underneath her. She always used to be like, come rub my knee because you got healing hands. Now, all I did was like just this or whatever. And it's funny because I love giving massages, but back then she used to always just say, come rub my knee, you got healing hands. And she would say that, and I remember laying on her stomach, like probably 10 years old, big, and just laying on her stomach, and she would breathe all hard. But that was our favorite thing. My favorite thing to do with her was just to lay on her stomach and her tell me stories from when she was a little girl. My grandmother grew up in Nutley, New Jersey, a small town in Essex County, very white. I don't know how it was back then, but for the most part, it is a white town. And she had a very big family. I think she was one of 9 siblings. And if my family watches this video, y'all can correct me with the facts. But I believe that she was one of 9, and they grew up in Nutley. And I believe her parents were from Georgia. And I believe that's where my grandmother was born before they came to New Jersey. So just a little history. But those were the kind of things that I would love to learn and know about my grandmother when we would spend our time together. As I got older, sorry for all the background noise, but anyway, as I got older, we disconnected because she was very stern. Her no's meant no. She knew how to save a coin for a rainy day, whereas like, I don't even know what that is. So she was a thrifter. So for me, wanting to be that girl to fit in with everybody and do what everybody else is doing when you're in middle school and high school, and just having a grandmother, I think if anybody was raised by their grandparents, then a lot of their ways and rules were like very tight, and they didn't work. They were retired by the time that they took us in, and so they were never out the house. They weren't big on me having company and a bunch of friends over the house and, things like that. So you can imagine there was a lot of disconnects there because I was somebody who was very social and had, I don't want to say a lot of friends, but I had a good amount of friends. And I always wanted to be that house or to have those friends come over and chill and spend the night and do sleepovers. And that just wasn't going to happen. And she stood her ground on her nose, and she stood her ground on a lot of things. Like, it was funny because, like, usually you think of, the man in the house is very stern and he's the one to say no. But in my house, that's not the way it went. Like, if I wanted something, I would ask my grandfather, because I knew that my grandmother she already had a no for me. So that started a lot of disconnect. And I was very mean. I was very disrespectful. A lot of people would say, you're spoiled, and, that's why you act like that. And I remember my aunts would get on me, and you need to respect your grandmother. And I used to just be so like, whatever, forget her, she just doesn't understand. And, and all those things that a spoiled kid would say. But I think what I've understood mostly about myself is just I didn't know what I didn't know. And I couldn't find it in myself to just be grateful because, I had this horrible situation that they took me out of. And, I just wanted to be this amazing kid because I'm so grateful for that. It was like, okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're my grandma. And that's not the case, number one. And then number two, I think it was just my growing pains, you know what I mean? Trying to fit in, trying to do what everybody else is doing, and not realizing that my situation was unique, and that, they had parents who are a little younger, who are a little more understanding, who could handle maybe having kids come over and spend the night and all these things. But I think they did those things to protect us. And now that we're older, and now that I'm older and I hear stories and horror stories about kids and people getting molested because they spent the night. And so now I'm like, ooh, child, whenever I have kids, I might, keep some of those same rules. But like I said, I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And so I spent a lot of time being angry with her in particular because I just wanted what I wanted. And she knew better. But she didn't feel as though she needed to explain anything. It was just no. So that's one thing I think if I ever had to say, out of our relationship, what I wish that she would have done more was like explain why she said no, instead of having just that, like I said, what I said kind of demeanor. And I think for me, I wish that I would have not been so in my feelings and would have maybe like slowed down and paid attention a little more. I don't know. But I definitely would have handled it better, right? I would have been a little more respectful in my outlashing. I would have been just a little softer. Because I didn't think about their age. I didn't think about, I'm telling you, like, God gave them grace. God gave them energy, because me and Kia, we wore them out. Like, we wore them out, okay? Financially, energy-wise, like, and it's so crazy, because, like, now that I think about it, my grandmother used to be running up and down them stairs and doing stuff and yelling and moving and grooving, and I'm like, you doing way more at 70 than I do at 30. So, yeah. Anyway, but I wish that I would have been a little more sensitive and soft with her, but you don't know what you don't know. And, I thank God for forgiveness. I thank God for grace. I thank God for our relationship. And I've shared this story, this moment with other people before. I remember I was going to a fellowship, a church in Chicago, and they were having this like women's retreat kind of thing. And we were talking about forgiveness, and something that was really big on my heart at the time, which I think in that moment I was kind of released from it, because forgiveness is just very weird, but I'll get into it anyway. So in that moment, I had shared a story about the last few weeks of my grandmother's passing. And sometimes we had dealt with, my grandfather passing, and she was, in good health. I want to say about a year after that. And eventually her health started to dwindle. She had colon cancer, and, with colon cancer, it's kind of a quick thing. I think it was fairly quick, but in her last couple of weeks, she was at Mountainside Hospital, You know, I was grateful for the time we spent there. I mean, I feel like Mountainside, I have my feelings about Mountainside, but, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, the last week and a half of her life, I remember going to the hospital every day. I mean, I would walk if I had to. I remember walking up that hill that goes to Mountainside from Broad Street. That's a big hill. I remember walking up that hill with these flowers with some poinsettias, which was like my peace offering, because I was just rebuilding. I was trying to rebuild all those years that we had lost within that time that I, you know, knew that I only had, you know, with her. I had left with her. So I remember going to the hospital every day that week, and we would play Uno with some of the women in the hospital with her. I think she had another roommate, I can't remember. But we would play Uno together, we would talk. And there was one conversation in particular, and I get kind of worked up every time I tell this story. And I forget what started the conversation, but I remember her saying to me, like, I never thought that you liked me. Yeah, she said, I never thought that you liked me. And that tore me up. I know I cried like a baby to her face. And in that moment, I realized that what you do to other people can really hurt them, even if you're not intentionally trying to hurt them. In that moment, I learned that my grandmother had feelings too. And I think sometimes you look at your parents or your caregivers as people that are just so strong that they have this superpower, or they have this no feeling kind of thing. And because she was stern and because she was who she was, I just never felt like she had feelings too. I never really saw my grandmother cry often. She was always in church, and she never was one of those shouters, even though we went to a shouting church. She was never one of those ladies that she would just get up and just, amen, and sit right back down. So I really didn't see a lot of emotion from her, but that day we cried together, and I said, no, Grandma, like, I love you. Like, I really love you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I'm sorry for being an asshole. I'm sorry, I just didn't know, you know. I didn't know that what I did was affecting you. And I didn't know that, like, I can't remember word for word what I said, but I remember just truly, like, apologizing and just telling her, like, how much I loved her. And, like, how much, you know, I apologize for being that kid that, you know, was so focused on the outside and not really focused on what's happening at home, and not finding the beauty and the peace in home, that I just thought it was everywhere else. And in that moment, she forgave me. It took me a long time to forgive myself, and I really believe that moment of me sharing that story at fellowship was the moment that I really forgave myself, because I didn't know that what I was doing affected her that bad. And there's so much beauty I find in her now that I get older. She wasn't somebody who spent a lot of time talking. She talked to who she talked to. I guess a few things I'll share about her that I love now that I didn't even realize, you know, that was so important then. My grandmother did not have a lot of friends. And I used to get on her, like, why you ain't got no friends? You ain't got no friends. Like, and it's just so crazy, like, the power of words. You don't know what they do to somebody else, but then if you don't know that person, if you don't spend time on getting to know that person, the very thing about them that you're making fun of is the very thing that makes them amazing. My grandmother did not have a lot of friends. She knew a lot of people. She had a lot of associates. And I think, you know, her sisters were her friends. My Aunt Velma and my Aunt Eloise, from what I can remember, were her friends. I remember she would always get a kick out of my Aunt Eloise because my Aunt Eloise was like that no nonsense, no BS kind of auntie. And my Aunt Velma was a chatterbox. She was just always, and they would just talk all the time. And then my cousin Dolores, who's still here with us, they talked a lot on the phone. And other than that, and Miss Wheeler, she had one friend that was not family, and that was Miss Wheeler. That was her go to the store friend. That was her everyday girlfriend. Like, they went to Atlantic City together, and they went to the store together, and they went thrifting together. That was a big thing my grandmother loved to do, and that was another disconnect, which I love thrifting now. But anyway, so yeah, my grandmother had a tight circle. And it's crazy that, like, then when I just wanted all the friends in the world and all the homies and all the people and this person, and then now that I'm 30, I'm like, damn, this is my circle. This is all you need. And I used to make fun of her for that, for not having no friends. But that was one thing that, you know, I really cherish about her. Is like, she knew who her people were, and she didn't feel the need to be a people pleaser or to find anything outside of like her side of the family. And so that was something. And another thing I used to always, oh my gosh, she felt like she knew fashion. Like, she was a minimalist. Like, and so I'm honoring her today. I don't have no makeup on. I just have a lip on. That was my grandmother. She never wore any makeup, like Vaseline or baby oil, and a cute lip. And she would always have a roller in the front of her hair. And she did her own nails. She didn't wax. She wasn't hairy, so she didn't wax. All these different things. And I was always like, I wanted to have the nails, the hair, the makeup. And she was always saying, you don't need all that. You don't need all that. You don't need all that. People who need all that don't think they're beautiful. And I used to roll my eyes like, you don't know what you're talking about. I need my hair. I need my nails. And it's just like, now that I get older, you don't need all that. You don't need, I mean, if you like it, cool. If you love it, great. But you don't need all that. And so that was another disconnect. And she knew how to save money, okay? She was that person, and I think Kia has a little bit of this blessing on her. I think I was a little more, well, I am a little more like, make it rain when it comes to money. My grandfather was like that. Like, he would spend money, and he just was like one of those people where if I got it, I got it. Like, and I'm gonna tell you, I got it. My grandmother, if she got it, she don't got it. And so I remember always like, can I have $5? Her no was no, and it was firm. Like, I wasn't getting that $5 if she said no. And she was one of the people that like kept her money like under her bed or somewhere, like hid. Like, she knew how to save. And I used to be like, you're so cheap. Like, you don't never want to spend no money and da 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 da. She knew how to do so much that she didn't have to spend no money. She never had to send clothes to the tailors because she knew what she was doing there. She never really found value in spending money on eating out all the time because she could cook really well. And yeah, the nails and hair. I mean, she did get her hair done. That was one thing she did do. She would go get her hair done. But as far as like nails and pedicures and stuff, I remember it was one time we begged her, I think for Mother's Day, to go get a pedicure. And she was like, that was nice, but I can do this myself. So I remember that. But yeah, she didn't find value in spending money because she knew what to do. Like, she knew how to get what she wanted by doing it. And that's something that I'm learning because I got the make it rain blessing. And that sometimes is not helpful. But I honor that about her. And I'll give you one more thing that was really great about her. I want to say her ability to not really get in no mess. Like, she was the queen, and I always say she's the queen of Now, this is just what I know. But she just like, I would always be like, Grandma, what happened? Who is that? What they doing? I don't know. I'm out of my business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. And it's like, I feel like that's something that's valued now. Sometimes we really just got to be like, that ain't my business. But she was the queen of that. Like, Now, like, she would hear a story and she'd be, Like, that was just her reaction. She didn't always have nothing to say. But I honor that about her, too. So, yeah, that's, like, my little story about my grandmother. But back to the hospital, that day was very monumental to my story on forgiveness. Like, her forgiving me and me noticing that what I did hurt her and her being able to tell me, because she wasn't one of many emotions either. Like, I knew that was a special moment, a magical moment, a needed moment for both of us. Because I don't think that, one, like I said, I did not know that she felt that way. And then two, she was able to really just like forgive me in that moment, because I was like heartbroken. I'm like, Grandma, I didn't mean to be mean. Like, I was just a fucking 12-year-old, 14-year-old, like, asshole, you know what I mean? Like, I was really sorry in that moment. And in that moment, she gave me her necklace, and she wore it every single day. My grandfather, his family is from Bermuda. They have this bird, long-tailed bird. That's what it's called. It's called a long-tailed bird. And in that moment, she gave me that necklace. And I was so grateful. I was so grateful. Kia actually has the long-tailed bird on her back tattoo. And I knew that was her saying, I forgive you. And I was just so blessed by that moment, so happy for that moment. It felt like all those years that I was crazy and bad just meant nothing. And now those years are used as lessons for me. And I pray that, one day that I get to be the amazing, beautiful grandmother that she was to me too, whenever I, have kids first and then grandkids. But I honor her today, and I honor her forever. And the day before she died, my Christmas gift to her was these flowers. She loved to plant. She was always in her garden. And that was some of the things. There are a few things that I didn't get to learn from her, because she was that person too. Like, and I think it was also just due to age. She was that person that's like, look, you in my way. You could watch me, but like hands-on. She wasn't so much hands-on, because she wanted to get what she wanted done. And those are one of the things I wish that I would have enforced more, by spending more time at home and learning how to plant things and handle a garden and cook, because she could really cook. She made this pound cake that was banging, this upside down pineapple cake that was banging. And I don't even think I liked pineapples back then, but I liked her cake. I don't even eat pork chops now, because she made banging pork chops then. And I'm like, if she can't come back and make them pork chops, I don't want them. Yeah, she could cook really well. I remember I used to sell everything. I could sell anything and everything to anybody. But I won't sell anything. But her cupcakes, I remember that. I used to make her make cupcakes, and she would make this caramel icing from scratch. And I would bring them to school and I would sell them and give them out. There's a funny story attached to that, but we'll save that for a rainy day. But yeah, I remember she used to just love planting and she loved cooking, and some of those things that I've adopted, but I wish that I would have spent a little more time with her learning how to do those things. But the day before she died, or I think, and it's funny because Facebook actually reminded me of this. It said like, oh, I'm getting ready to go bring these flowers to Granny, and they were on sale. I was working at ShopRite in Bloomfield at the time, and they had these on sale. And I remember walking to the hospital and bringing these to her and leaving them with her. And so it's so funny that we had these in the house this weekend so I could share my story. So this was my peace offering, and in that I was able to be forgiven by my grandmother. And now I'm forgiven. I've forgiven myself on that. And so I'm blessed to be in this space. I'm happy that I can honor her with a smile. I'm happy that I can honor her with stories and share them. And I pray that one day that, I have a baby or grandbaby that will sit on my belly and listen to the stories like I used to listen to her stories. So I thank you guys for listening. And if this video brought some light and happiness to your day, please share it. But most importantly, find forgiveness. Find forgiveness. If there's anybody that you're holding a grudge with, and I can't just say anybody, but there's certain people that deserve your forgiveness, and you deserve to be forgiven in some areas too. And I pray that you find that. And so, happy Saturday. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy day after Christmas. Happy Forgiveness Day. That's what we're going to call it today. Happy Forgiveness Day. So, have a good one.